And this is dangerous. If you ever interview Zachary King, the ex-satanic high wizard, he specifically says how he became his start of occultism was playing Bloody Mary.
So these portals that are being opened, what's the purpose of that?
They will not say they're portals being opened, but this is my conjecture. Because again, just like the baptisms, right? You're doing them for dead people. You're going to come back to this room. I did it probably 200 times. And you're going to seal dead people to each other. And he's going to be James today, and you're going to be Mary today, and you're going to seal James and Mary for time and all eternity. First of all, as much as that sounds wonderful, people, it's not biblical.
Hey, before we start the episode, if you're on YouTube or Rumble, like, subscribe, and hit that bell. You want to make a comment? Go for it. It's America. If you catch me on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, hit me with those 5 stars. I appreciate the support. Let's start the show.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Frequency 369. I'm your host, Cesar Pagan, and today I have a treat. I have here the host of the Unfiltered Rise podcast, Heidi Luv. And some of you may know her, and some of you that don't know her, you're going to get to know her today. So Heidi, how are you?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me on. I am Heidi Luv of the Unfiltered Rise podcast. Just for your listeners, that is really my name. My parents were raging hippies. I am a baby of the 70s.
I loved it. I loved it when I reached out to you. I was like, this has got to be her tag name.
Yep. My parents really did that. Yeah.
Yeah. Heidi Luv.
Yep.
Do they ever throw like peace signs and everything whenever they said it?
Yeah, I'm sure they used to. My dad made the joke that whenever he was in trouble, that they would always yell at him with his middle name, and he hated it. And so he said, they changed my name 4 days after I was born. It was Heidi Ann. And then they were like, and I'm so glad they didn't keep that, because no offense, parents, but like, that's a lot of 80s, okay, up in the house. And I'm like, oh man. And my dad said, I don't know, it just came to me, and my mom really liked it, and so they switched it up. I actually have a 2 birth certificates, so it's kind of cool. Yeah.
There's the first person I've heard that has 2 birth certificates. So
yes.
I guess congrats. I don't know.
Thanks. I'm my own twin.
I love it. So Heidi, well, I've been following recently here your podcast, and I'll tell you what, I'm very impressed, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm impressed. You seem to be really good at researching a lot of your topics, a lot of your investigations, and then not only on top of that, you don't just talk about it; you bring the receipts.
I'm funny.
You bring
that
the
way.
receipts. I love it because people are visual learners. I mean, the average person does a podcast and they're just talking right off of knowledge, and you maybe trust what they say. Maybe you're kind of like squinting a little bit and stuff, but you're like, hey, let me show you something that I found that you can also find yourself.
Yes.
Because as we know, a lot of these hidden truths are actually right there in plain sight.
Yes,
we just don't know where to go or where to find it. So, but before we get into any of that, I want to let folks know that we are going to talk about Masonry magic. So I don't know anything about that other than what I just said right there. So that's going to be Heidi that's going to talk to you guys about that. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But Heidi, what I do is before we ever get into deep dive into the actual topic, I always like to ask all my guests the same question. Before you started getting into all of this, before you were a podcaster, before you started asking questions about our reality and the universe that we live in, who were you?
Before I fell down the gnome hole, I like to say gnomes now because rabbit hole is so boring. And Actually, the gnomes have like helped people a lot. They're out there digging. If you've ever checked into the supercomputer, you'll find out that the gnomes told that guy how to make that. So, and it's interesting, right? I was just this mom. Oh, in 2020 and 2019, I was very normie. I was a normie of Normieville, but I always had a tendency for research. And I was in the debate team. I lettered in debate. I'm a huge nerd. I know it doesn't probably fit the bill, but that's what I am. And so I always was a very curious person. And when 2020 hit, and I'm a nurse, and it only takes one conspiracy to really jack up your brain. Like you're just like, wait, if this is fake, is everything fake? And of course, and I don't know if this is going on YouTube, so I'll be careful about this, is I woke up because I was almost forced to do something against my bodily autonomy. And I refused to ever do that. And same for doing that to anyone else as a nurse. And as I started learning about this whole situation, I went, this doesn't seem right. This seems against everything I've ever been told my whole entire life as far as medically. And I don't want to give anyone medical advice. You can do what you want. But here's the thing. When you study enough, you go, wait, what? That doesn't make sense. Or wait, why is this? And so then I started opening up my mind to tons of other things. And as I fell down that gnome hole, I was like dragging my family members with me, and they're like laughing. They're like, this, she's gone off the rails. Like my dad was super smart, and he was always very, I like to say he was like George Carlin-esque. I remember mostly calling my dad and having him say like, well, Dad, I have this huge problem. And he would be like, you know what? If you didn't have any problems, you'd have a big problem because you're dead. He literally said that once.
Wow.
I mean, so we're not talking extra fuzzy feelings, but
yeah,
he was right? When I was young, I just thought he's an asshole, you know? I mean, this guy's a cynical jerk. And as I grew up, I'm like, wow, he was right about almost everything. And he's passed away now. So I'm sure he's gloating in heaven. But yeah, so all these things that he kind of instilled in me, plus the fact that I had come out of the Mormon church, I already knew that life was stranger than fiction and could be a lie, because everything I knew about my whole entire life was a lie after 34 years. And I just went, okay, well, now what? You know, what are we going to do with this? And so in my true fashion, I was just researching, studying away, and I found some things about a high school. And a friend of mine showed me a couple pictures, and she's like, you should check this out. And I'm like, yeah, this is crazy. I like to dissect things. Josh Monday once said, you Isaac Weishopped that because, you know, I just pull it apart. And I sent it to Josh and I said, you know, I love you. I love your podcast. Here, put this on. See you later. Bye. And he's like, wait. I don't know anything about Mormons or Utah, or I can't do what you just did. Like, I can't explain that. And I'm like, yeah, I'll send you the notes. Here you go. And he's like, no, just come on. And I was like, on where? Like, what? And he's like, on a podcast. I'm like, no, I don't do that. I'm just a mom and a nurse. Like, but I like to do this in my free time, you know? And he was like, no, please, you got to come on. So I did. And then he's like, in the middle of it, he's like, you said you were like a Mormon, right? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you got to come back. And so I came back. I even said to him, why? Everybody knows this. And he's like, no, they don't. But I live in Utah. So yes, they do. Here, it's all about your perception, right? Like, here they do. Yeah. So I just thought, oh, how funny. And so then I thought, okay, well, I'll go back. And then we had to do a part 2 to that. And so I think I'd been on about 4 times when he said, you know, we can keep doing this, but you might just want to try it yourself. And I'm like, and talk to who? I'm an apostate of the church living in Utah. My family has disowned me. I'm having, you know, an existential crisis of reality. And I have 5 people that like me. No, 5 that know me, 4 that like me. I don't know. I was like, who do you want me to talk to? And then I prayed about it a whole bunch. And I was like, oh my gosh, God is really telling me maybe I should do this. And I was like, no, I don't know anyone. Like, who do you want me to talk to? And so I just thought, okay, well, I'll just do it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Make fool of yourself or something, right? Like, who cares? So here I am, lots of listeners later.
Here you
I
are.
guess people want to know. Yeah.
Yeah, people want to know. People are interested because, I mean, again, I've never been a Mormon, right? So,
Yeah.
but we hear so many stories from the outside looking in, but to hear a story from the inside looking out, that's fascinating,
Right.
And
Right.
I guess to not go too far down the gnome hole regarding the Mormon aspect, I am kind of curious though, since you're in Utah there, has other Mormons listened to your podcast, and has
Well,
that made them think about where their situation is?
no, there's some that have already gotten out that have written me letters, and those people are already 1 foot out the door. I don't think a true blue Mormon, or a Molly Mormon, as we call it, would actually listen to my podcast because it would be against the rules. I am anti-Mormon propaganda, and I am going to outer darkness. And so they would not want to associate or talk to me or listen to me.
Wow. I mean, and since they're in your community, I mean, do you ever get, I'm going to ask a dumb question. Do you ever get like
Yeah.
threats of any kind? Do they tell you to shut up, stop talking about us, side eyes, anything?
I get scrambled a lot. The only thing I've noticed is I get scrambled a lot. Like when I'm going on a show or something, or if it's a pretty big thing, like my computer has just randomly gone crazy, and it wouldn't even turn off. It just was making this horrible noise, like, and then my back door frame was kind of busted in once, and I can't prove that, but I mean, it was broken.
Right.
I have a huge dog, so I bet they didn't stay long. But because if I saw my dog, I would run for my life. But, things like that. But the scrambling is annoying. Little things are annoying like that. But I've never had anybody threaten me per se. I think it's easier for them to just say, well, she's crazy. And I'm like, okay, that's why I bring receipts. That's why my Mormon stuff, and even this, like, I like to bring photographic evidence a lot of times, if there is photographic evidence, because of the fact that I know how I would have swallowed that as a Mormon. I would have gone, no, that's not true. You're lying, and so a picture's worth 1,000 words.
It is. It is. Heidi, I appreciate you sharing that. And we are very close to start talking about Masonry magic, but I've never asked a Mormon this question, so I have to ask this question. Or an ex-Mormon, I apologize.
Yes,
An
it's
ex-Mormon.
okay.
What is your perception and view today of what God is?
I was one of the lucky ones. I truly believe in the Bible. I'm lucky that I was saved, and I do not believe in any organized religion. I just really love the Bible, but I also love extra canonical books. I love reading, all the books that they kind of tossed out of the Bible. I like to study around the Bible. I like to study all these things and try to get a fuller understanding, but also at the end of the day, like, no matter what they do to the Bible, it is the living word of God. And I journal a lot and I pray. And I think prayer is just so underestimated, like really, really, truly. I went through a really hard time in 2020. I estranged from one of my daughters. Well, I didn't, she did. And yeah, I would love to have her back in my life, but that just isn't what is happening. And so that was kind of what led me down that prayer journey. And lucky enough that I didn't become an atheist. Not that if you're an atheist, like, I'm not hating on you. It's just not for me. A lot of Mormons that get out are atheists, not because they truly believe in it, like some people, but because they're pissed off.
Yeah,
So,
that would make sense. Yeah,
yeah.
they're like fuck any religion. Like, I don't want to be part of anything. I don't want to
Yep.
follow nothing. That makes sense. I think I think I would do the same if that's the case, But I wonder what they do with that anger then. Do
It
do
comes
they
out.
do
Let's see.
do they get a podcast? I mean, what?
They might go after the Mormon church if they're people like I am. But, I've always said it and I'll say it again. Mormons, if you want to be whatever you are, and if you want to say whatever you want, then say what you are and quit lying to people. Because if you want to be a Mason, even if the Masons don't tell you the truth about what you're going to do in there, you know what you're going to be. You're going to be a Mason. if you go to be a Mormon and you go in there and become a Mason, you didn't sign up for that. I didn't sign up for that, right? Like, I didn't know that. And neither did my grandma, and neither did her grandma. And all these nice little old ladies that are baking cookies and wonderful people of the church, that's unfair. That's not right. And so when I see things like that, because I'm a very just person, I don't like things that are just unfair. I think that it's, just not right for them to do the things that they do. They need to come clean.
Yeah.
So
Man,
they can't.
I'm for those that are interested in your story regarding the Mormon situation. Which episode is that of yours? Do you know by heart, or we can probably look at it later?
No, it's the first couple that are on my channel. I think it's like number 3 and 4. But I will say this: I have far better presentations because that was so early in my journey out. If you just put my name in Spotify, about 100 Mormon podcasts will come up, and it will show you, like the mystical part of all of it. And that's the thing, is Mormonism is occult masonry, period.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry if you don't know, because the people at the top, it's just like the military. It's a need to know base.
Yeah.
Like, really.
Well said. Yeah. Need to know. And well, again, I appreciate you sharing your brief little, snippet of that. I think people that are curious are going to go find this information, go find you, or if anybody is sneaking a phone and listening to your podcast in a closet somewhere where they shouldn't be, in the Mormons, right? They're going to be like, I
got a surprise for you.
Yeah. Come talk to Heidi. So, well, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, school is in session. Today's teacher, Heidi Luv, is going to talk to us today about Masonry magic. So the floor is yours. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to share my screen just because I did a tiny, and it's not too big of a presentation like my normal ones are, because it's a newer presentation that I'm doing. And so it's kind of fun that I think you're the only second person that might have seen this. So unless they saw it on my channel. Okay. So as I was saying, lately, I have had people trolling saying, I am the only person that ever put together Solomonic magic and Mormonism. And this guy is so annoying. He's going on all my old shows and saying, oh, she never said anything about this. Well, okay. I looked into Solomonic magic because of what we're going to talk about today. I found this one thing from Mormonism, which I should put in here, and it was the Jupiter talisman that Joseph Smith had. Well, when you start looking into what a Jupiter talisman is, it goes back to the greater and lesser keys of Solomon. And I was like, well, this seems weird, because when we talk about Masonry, Scottish Rite Masonry doesn't really fit the bill of Joseph Smith so amazingly because of the timeline. You would think that it would be an order that's quite a bit older than that. And so I was searching for something that could maybe fit like this situation of Joseph Smith, because he practiced what they call folk magic, but it wasn't. It was Solomonic magic. And there's sigils involved and all different kinds of things that are involved with that. And as you search what these are, you're like, okay, well, where did this come from? Well, where did that come from? And you're trying to figure it out. So for months and months and months, I was searching into this, and I found something called Martinism. And Martinism is actually mystic masonry. And this is a book about Martinism that people can look up. This is another book also, and it's called Mystic Masonry. Well, not all Masons are the same, and some of them are magical orders. And these magical orders actually practice magic. So they still continue, like in Martinism, with the Solomonic magic, and they also put in the aspects of the Masonry on top of it. And there's kind of 3 different branches of this particular sect. And the reason why I thought it was super important is because as it pertains to Joseph Smith and all the things that I was telling you that he was doing, I just felt like there had to be a better answer than just, oh, it's the Kabbalah. Oh, it's this Jewish guy he knew. Well, one of the things that I do know about Joseph Smith is when he was 14, 15, somebody came to town and kind of took him under his wing. And his name, funny enough, is Lumen Walters. Lumen, like light bearer, like light bringer.
Yeah.
Of course it is, right?
Yeah, of course, right?
And it's a real guy. I thought, oh, for sure it's not real. Nope, it actually is real. And so Lumen Walters had just returned. He was supposedly a doctor, but he's not a doctor. But he returned from France, and he's kind of a rich guy. And I thought, okay, France, there's a little hint right there. Like, this guy came back from France, and people said he lost his full crap there, and that he changed completely, and he got really into being basically a magician. And I was like, okay, what does this have to do with Joseph Smith? Well, everything changed about Joseph at this same time frame. So to understand where we're going with this, we have to understand a little bit about Martinism. And Martinism is a Christian mysticism and esoteric sect of Masonry. Now, there are not very many people that will even speak about this. However, I am not a huge, I'm a researcher, but I know a little bit about a lot, but that doesn't mean I'm a specialist. So if you want to go in and listen to some really good podcasts that do like an extra deep dive, Glitch Bottle is a really good one, or What Magic Is This is a really good one. So these are like magical podcasts, like nowadays magical. And I don't mean pulling rabbits out of a hat.
I didn't know they even had like podcasts dedicated to like magic, which is
magic.
Of course there would be, but I just never thought about it.
Yeah. I found them on accident, and I think they're super great, and they explain a lot. The other one is on YouTube, and that would be Dr. Justin Sledge's Esoterica, which I have had him on as a guest, but I didn't know about Martinism then, unfortunately, or I would have asked him a whole bunch of different questions. So this is actually a magical order that focuses on the fall of man. And it's a mystical and theurgical practice. So they actually have active practitioners of Solomonic magic even today. And so this exists and continues. But Martinism has done something that Masonry has not. They do not speak about it really that much. So it is really hard to try and find. I've tried to find somebody that could come on, and the only one I haven't asked yet is probably the guys from those two podcasts that I've talked to you about. And maybe they would. They seem a little more open to knowledge. Yeah. But yeah, you never know. So it is a mystical tradition, and that's kind of why I put this up here. And this has a 3-part personage, I guess is a good way to put it. And we'll put up their picture here. And these 3 guys all together, unless it's not there. Okay, well, it isn't. I'll just tell you about them. So Saint Martin and Pasquale and Louis Claude de Saint Martin, these are all French guys. And they are all super important in this. Martinez de Pasquale, the Masonic Templarism of John Baptiste Willermose, and the Christian Theosophy of Louis Claude de Saint Martin. And so people will recognize this name, Jacob Boehme, if you've ever tried to study anything about Masonry whatsoever, because there's the Jacobians. And so when you study Masonry, I will tell you guys this. When you think you know something, you really don't know anything. I mean, I can give you guys the icing on the cake, but that's about it, because this stuff gets crazy. Every time I think I got an answer, I'm like, holy cow, there's another answer and another answer and another answer. I mean, there's a reason why this stuff takes forever. Yeah.
Have you ever tried getting, I don't know, if, like a true Masonry person that's like in?
They don't talk shit.
They don't talk, right?
I do a show with a Mason. Paranoid Americanism, 32nd degree Mason, and he's not going to tell you anything. Like, he'll tell you the icing on the cake,
right?
But they're not going to go over things in a deep dive. Honestly, they can't. You know, one time he joked and said to me, "Make sure your question is good, because I'll get killed if I answer it." So,
I mean, that's like it's a joke, but it's not a joke.
It's right. You're right. Yes. And so it's a little bit scary. And so these three guys here, what the reason why this is all combined together is because there were differences of opinion and different time frames. So the first one that we're going to deal with is Martinez de Pasquale. And he was let's see. No. Here we go. And he was in the order of the elect priests, and that was started in 1758. He came from a Portuguese occultist Jewish ancestry. That is a mouthful, let me tell you. He arrived in France before 1754, but they do not know really where he was born. So all of this is just like a guess on the Portuguese, maybe Jewish. They don't really 100% know. And he established the first lodge, and he called it the Scottish Judges. The term elect Cohens, aka Martinism, which is just a nickname kind of for it, does not appear until 1760. He is called the father of broader practices, and he wrote only one book. And this book is called, and the name of this book is crazy, Treaty on the Reintegration.
On the reintegration.
So this is going to make more sense here soon. This is a Gnostic cosmology material that the world was created as a prison for fallen angels. Now remember, what was the title?
Oh, shoot, are they talking?
Yeah,
is that like
right?
a form of like? Is that a form of like reincarnation? Is that?
I think this is probably a form of channeling fallen angels
into like human beings or something.
That's how it sounds. I have not read this full book. Remember, it's icing on the cake for me. But I will tell you guys, it does say this, that Adam and Eve were created, and Cain was like before Adam had repented and Abel was after. So I guess Abel was better off. But all of Adam's knowledge was then given to Seth. So because he's the third son born. So Cain blows it, Abel's dead, and Seth gets the knowledge. And they call this friends of wisdom, and they preserved these fragments of Seth's knowledge. It is now Gnosticism of the higher degrees, okay? So this guy starts out with all this, and he's like completely into it. And I want to tell you this other part too, what he calls it, okay? It was called la chose. So that means in French, the thing. Have you ever heard of anything that sounds similar to that?
The movie.
The Cosa Nostra. It's called our thing instead of the thing. The Cosa Nostra is the mob.
Oh, really?
So, yes.
Okay. Interesting.
And they also do secret rites and rituals. If you look up, it's very Catholic rituals, but nevertheless. So these secret rituals for the thing, aka Martinism, are performed on the days of spring and autumn equinox to conjure an intelligence. Okay, you have to understand why I started going into this. Now, supposedly, and I do believe this is true, when Joseph Smith got the plates, he dressed all in black on the fall equinox in the middle of the night on a certain time when the moon was just right. And he has all these alchemical like writings and different things, even though he's supposed to be illiterate, which is bullshit. He just knew too much. You know, he knew a lot. And he did this, and he did it on the fall equinox. And what does this say? This says if you do it correctly on the spring and autumn equinox, you can conjure intelligences of the spiritual realm into visibility. So you have to understand about Solomonic magic when you're talking about intelligences. Anytime they say intelligence, it means a demon. Because it's a lower level. It's not an angel. It's a lower level. And so
what do you think these so when they summon these demons, what do you think these demons give them? Is it just knowledge or
well,
they
I mean, I think it gave them a whole religion.
Yeah.
I think it gave Joseph Smith a whole religion. And in return, I mean, we can do a fun game. I do this on my regular podcast for Mormonism, is I say, okay, we can do Joseph Smith, who had a fit of darkness and woke up and saw God the Father and the Son. And they said, write this book and translate these plates. it became a religion. And what happens? He starts polygamy. So in return, there's a sexual sin. We can do John Dee. John Dee's a really good one. He was doing Enochian workings with his, there was 2 different people that were helping him. But the one ended up, he was like, his ears were cut. He was like a criminal. Edward Kelly is his name. And he's just kind of a no good guy. And all of a sudden the angels are like, hey, guess what? You guys should swap wives. So they do. And then John Dee ends up raising Edward Kelly's kid the rest of his life. We can do Aleister Crowley. He saw an alien instead of an angel in Egypt. And what was its name? It was Aiwass. And people forget about Aiwass. They always go to Lamb because of the photo. But Aiwass told him a bunch of things and he wrote it down. It became the Book of the Law. And the Book of the Law is very important to occultists, and including Thelema, it also became a religion. And what in return did he do? Tons of sexual debauchery. He was kicked out of Italy, for heaven's sake. We could do Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard and Parsons are out in the desert doing Babylon workings. And I won't go into what that is because it's gross. And so you guys can look that up. And after they got done, they'd already made the sexual sacrifice and they write a bunch of stuff down. It becomes Scientology. So on and on and on, it's every religion. Muhammad, same thing. He has a fit of darkness. The angel Gabriel comes to him, tells him a bunch of things. They write it down. It becomes a religion.
Wait, the Muhammad guy, like the one that was in with like peaceful guy, little skinny guy? Really?
Yep.
Oh.
So, he became, he wrote it all down. And then, if you've read the Torah, it's not all peaceful. But also it's really, I'm not shaming anybody's choices. Like, I believed in a guy that got punched by a toad. I mean, come on. But like, it is what it is. He married an 8-year-old girl shortly after that. So let alone the polygamy. So people say, well, she was already in puberty, and they go back and forth on this big, huge argument. And I'm like, look,
people try to justify why. I don't understand when people try to justify certain things, but wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so each one of these situations that I've given you, they get this, knowledge or whatever, and then it becomes a religion. And it's funny because when I talked to Dr. Justin Sledge, he said, us Jewish people, we don't want to mess with angels because they're really militant and they're not very nice. And he said, we would rather deal with a whole bunch of demons than ever deal with an angel, because they will help you, but they'll do like this. And they did this with John Dee often. Like, oh, you want to stop drinking? Okay. Are you sure you want to stop drinking? Okay. Well, we're going to put you in prison for the rest of your life. There you go. You're sober now. Like, thanks.
Is that probably where the whole like phrase, like, be careful what you wish for?
Yes, I think so. I think so, because honestly, it's kind of strange. And when you're talking about intelligences, these are different things because they're lower level than an angel. So they can be manipulated to your will. And you can actually commune with these spirits in a way, Solomonic magic. Have you ever seen Solomonic magic sigils? We might have to open.
No.
Okay, let's open this other one too. I'm going to keep going with Martinism, but it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you've never seen certain things. So I want to
show and tell. I mean, myself and a lot of other people are probably brand new to a lot of this stuff. So.
All right. Well, Joseph Smith literally pulled this whole religion out of his hat. You think I'm kidding? You think I'm kidding? I'm not kidding. Okay, so this is his seer stone that he would put in that hat and block out all the light. Well, John Dee would do similar things. His Edward Kelly would look into a scrying mirror. This is called scrying. And when you're scrying, you block out all the light and you can actually commune with these angels or demons. Now, this is why I said I'm not kidding. This is the real hat. This is the current prophet of the church. He is 100 years old. His name is Russell M. Nelson. And he is a Skull and Bones member from the University of Utah that was set up and sanctioned by Skull and Bones Yale. So when I tell you these things, I'm not joking. Like, it sounds crazy. And that's why I do pictures, because it does sound crazy.
So they're just passing down that hat. That hat.
Yeah, no, that hat stayed in the vault until maybe 2 years ago, we thought it was all a joke, but it wasn't. And this is a sigil that was written out. This is a neighbor's account. This is Willard Chase's account drawn into reality from the court case. Now, when people say, well, he just hated him and that was just gossip. No, it wasn't. This happened in a court of law. This was his sworn affidavit and his testimony. That's a little bit different than just hearsay next door. So this guy, got taken in because Joseph Smith actually got prosecuted for being a treasure digger because he sucked. And so go figure. The angels, it's slippery treasure. You'll have to see what I mean, but it's funny. Like they say these angels that they're calling down with this sigil magic that they do, and the guardians of the treasure make it slip down because they didn't do something right. So these sigils are kind of what led me to this Martinist deal, because when you look at certain things like this, or this is the third pentacle, and this is of Jupiter. Now, this is in the greater and lesser keys of Solomon. And when I'm talking about Solomon, I'm talking about like the Solomon with the demons in the ring, the story?
Yeah.
Okay. And this is Joseph Smith's Jupiter talisman. And if you see, it's exactly the same thing here on the right-hand side. This is a table of Solomon, but that's a different thing.
Okay.
And this is it's witchcraft,
Mm.
And so when you're talking about this stuff, see how it's almost identical.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't hard to find or track this to Solomonic magic. When you start putting these things in reverse lookup, or you're like, what the hell is happening here? Like, why is this this way? Or why is that way? You start wondering, because there's also these lamens, they're called lamens, that he had in that little purse around his neck. And these were inside of that. They try to blame it on the brother, Hiram. If you know anything about Freemasonry, you just laughed a lot, because Hiram Abiff is the whole story about Freemasonry. And Hiram is Joseph's brother's name. It's
what
they know. Yeah, it's funny.
That's wild. And what for those like myself that don't know the term, what do you call them? Layman's or
Layman.
What's that?
These are papers that he would have put around his neck. And they, at the bottom here, if you guys look at this, it decodes every symbol that is in there. But these sigil magic, these symbols represent, like this is Raphael, the angel. These are different, witchcraft sigils that are, and I can go to the next one because it explains it up close so you can see. So whoso beareth this, all spirits shall actually have to do him homage and pay him homage. And that was on there. And then the next one says he doesn't have to fear anyone but God. Well, this is strictly from Sibley's Book of Witchcraft. Like, this is an old witchcraft book. And so people say, that's just silly. I mean, it was just folk magic. My ass, this is from a witchcraft book. Like, what are you talking about? Yeah, no.
So they would put these on a piece of paper and then put them on their body?
In their neck. Yeah. It would be held in this little pouch. Kind of looks like a purse in a way. And that was just one of them. There's 3 of them. Here's another one. So here's another one. This is, and also when you have these open symbols, this is Juvanlades, which is also a Freemasonic password. So some people watching this will laugh. But that is the name of that angel. And it actually is what led me to John Dee. And so when you're looking at all of these different signs and symbols that are on here, this is it right here. See, Juvanlades. And it explains who it is. But when it's open and not in the seal, that means he's actually working with that particular spirit and not bossing it around. Because when you put that little sigil, the little circle around it, that means you're commanding. You're commanding.
Wow. So they had a little demon minion.
They were
friends. And it says there, it said there Jehovah, like is like
they
Jehovah
still use Jesus. This is like a Gnostic. This is like a weird Gnostic idea. See this little leather pouch around his neck?
I see.
That's where those papers would be. That's where they would hold.
They'll have it just out there. It's not even tucked in or like a dog tag or nothing.
I think they would have tugged. I think he would have hit it. Yeah. I just think for
Interesting.
the photo.
For a
And then
photo, yeah.
this is like some of the symbols on his Intelligence of Mars knife. And then they've got all these different signs on these. These are magical tools. If you know anything about magic, you have to have a dagger and a sword and a cup and all these different things. And, it's not a joke that he has a white hat. I mean, like a top hat. I mean, it's kind of funny to me. I was shocked that it was white, though. I thought it would be black.
That's what I thought too, though, because I was gonna ask. I was like, I thought white hats were supposed to be like, in general terms, the good guys, right? With white magic, white
Yes.
spells. But no,
Well,
huh?
I don't know about that because some of the things they do in the temple, which is in my regular presentation, you can see these hands here. See
Yeah.
how they're holding their hands. And then here again, you see the hand. And then we go to this, see the hand. This is Typhon. This is not a good symbol. This is actually from the OTO, but the OTO is too new for Joseph Smith. But this stuff was still around. There's nothing new under the sun. And so that's why I was looking for Masonry or something to explain, like, how did he receive all this knowledge? How did he know to peep stone? And how did he know to do these things? Because it didn't make a lot of sense to me. I was just like, this seems like weird that there's just all of a sudden this stuff, right? Like, and this is some of the magical. So you can see here, we're back to Martinism, the sword and the cup and the incense burner and the candle, like all these things that you have to have for magic. And it again is Solomonic magic.
See, if I saw that and me not knowing anything that I'm looking at, if I saw that at a table, even at a church, I would think that's some kind of like holy,
right,
table,
very Catholic,
very Catholic, maybe a little, I don't know, maybe Jewish because of the star or whatever. But dang, and right there in front of you,
right there, hidden in plain sight. You said it correct. It's kind of a mix, right? When you get into mysticism, it's kind of a mix. And this is
look at these
them
guys
dressed in full regalia. Yeah, this is actually modern Martinism. These are people that still practice this today.
Why do they take pictures though? I mean,
they want to be bad, I don't know.
Okay, I mean, yeah, like just to take pictures, but like, yeah, guys, it's a secret, but it's not.
It's a secret because they hid their faces. Yes.
Yeah, because they hid their faces.
So these secret rituals are performed. Like I said, they're trying to actually commune with spirits. And remember, this is Pasquale. That's really important to remember because we're going to talk about 3 different people today. And so Pasquale is all about this. He's into the Kabbalah. He is into grimoires, which are those sigil magics that I showed you with all the weird writing on them. Rosicrucianism, alchemicalism. And supposedly his grandfather was a member of the tribunal of the Inquisition. So nobody can prove that. And some people are like, right, he was. Like, some people are like, I don't know about that guy. But I mean, we don't have any proof one way or another. So he also is together with another guy named Louis Claude de Saint Martin. And he's the other like half of this trio. Okay. And this guy was totally in about it. He met Pasquale at a mystical order and they began, kind of working together to bring these magical rites back because they'd kind of been lost and they were trying to, stir it back up and fix it up and make it better. And so, they were trying to also, he was doing the Jacobean translations. Remember, I told you about Jacob Boehme.
Yeah.
Jacob Boehme is really important because the Jacobians are a huge order in of themselves, like a whole nother separate order. And he was into those writings. He was translating them from German to French. They were also into spiritualism, and Swedenborg was really a big part of that. And so all of this is going together when they come together and have this relationship. And both of them are doing this for a while. But I'll tell you, Louis Claude de Saint Martin, those sigils that I showed you, those diagrams, he had handwritten one that has like over 2,400 of them in a book. This dude was dedicated, dedication.
Gee.
And he was down for a while, but then all of a sudden he was like, hey, I don't think we should talk to the angels anymore. I don't know what happened to him. I wish I knew. But like all of a sudden he was like, nah, bro, they're liars. Don't
Too
talk to
much.
them, angels.
Yeah.
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 And that's what John Dee said too. John Dee said the same thing, that if you get to like a certain level of talking to these things, that it gets really scary, like basically.
Yeah.
And I don't
can
know what
imagine.
happened to this guy, because he didn't say, right? He just all of a sudden started saying, don't talk to angels. I disapprove of all of this. It should be all inner work. It should be like all about like more Gnostic, like, Christ consciousness and meditation. And he actually changed his to the way of the heart. He kind of like, he took his name off all Masonry ledgers. He didn't want nothing to do with it anymore.
He was done.
He was like,
I
something scared
officially
him.
quit. Yeah.
Yeah. I think something really terrified him, and I will probably find out, because I'm like a dog with a bone. I'll figure it out. But, it's interesting to me that they kind of go their separate ways. Well, Pasquale had gone into Haiti and learned some really crazy black magic with his. And so it doesn't surprise me that it scared the crap out of the other one, right?
Yeah.
And he literally quoted the scripture, "Go away, seraphim, do not talk to me." Like, he was out.
Yeah.
So Pasquale dies, and St. Martin is like, nah, bro, don't talk to him. And so we get left with a new one, right? Because after that, they're like, what do we do with this? And so you can't just drop it when your order is called. Let me tell you, because it's hysterical. I'm sorry if anybody does this, but it cracked me up.
Yeah, go for it.
It's like the order, let's see, I have to find it because it was too good, of the universe or something. It's like elect priests of the universe. Yeah, of the
That's
universe.
the title?
Not just the world. Yeah,
The elect
universe.
piece of the universe.
The universe. So don't forget, it's the universe. So, I mean, these people are probably pretty full of themselves, in all honesty. Like, I do think Saint Martin, tried to like correct his ways and not be about that later in life. But to pick up where he left off, Willermose, this guy, the third one, Willermose, he comes into it and he's like, no, we can't just quit. What are you doing? Like, this is a good thing. And so Willermose pops into the scene, and he's all about a different form. He's still about like putting it into the whole mystic part. But also he starts to involve more German strict rites of Masonry. So this is Jean-Baptiste Willermose. He's key in Freemasons. He's already involved in the Freemason German strict rites. He's already a mystic. He's already a Knight of the Sword. He's already Knights of Black Eagle, Rose Croix, Alchemy. He's like, he's dialed up. He's dialed up.
His resume is pretty filled up.
He's big. Yes. He's all about it. And so he's like, okay, well, let's keep doing this. And he's really into the alchemical part. Their whole workings are like the Philosopher's Stone, the Panacea, the great works of wisdom and science. This is all key in making what's called the CBCS. And the CBCS comes out of this Martinistic order. It's a part of it, and it's the Scottish Rectified Rite of Chevaliers. So that goes back to this particular guy. And it's more of a Masonic form of Templar Masonry. And CBCS is in the U.S. This order was original teachings of the Ellis Cohens and merged with the Templar strict observance rites. So when you start looking at some of these, and I just put these in because they're some of their photos, the way that they view ascension and different things, you guys can look it up.
Yeah,
but
that's interesting. Wow.
Look at this freaking break off. These are like all of the different parts of just the Scottish Rite Masonry.
Are these like ranks or what?
Yeah, this is like all the different, and this is not even, it is crazy big.
So they have like, kind of like how you would compare it to the military. They have their ranks and their chevrons and, acknowledge me.
Yeah.
And so the highest one is the Inspector General Honorary Supreme Council. That's their Pope. That's their head guy. Well,
and I don't even think they're all, let's see. Yeah, they are all on here. JK, they are. And I have talked to a 33rd degree as well.
Yeah, 33.
And so, they're not really shy about saying that, but they're just not going to tell you all the things. They're like, yeah, well, so you know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's like they walk around and, they'll say, yeah, I'm a masonry or I'm this degree, blah, blah, blah. But it's not a big deal to them because they're not really revealing any secrets. So then people just don't really pay too much mind to it because they're like, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but good for you.
I thought I had a book down here and it's super good. It's called The Royal Arch of Enoch by Robert Sullivan the Fourth.
The Royal Arch of Enoch. Does that have anything to do with the Book of Enoch?
Yes.
Okay.
No, well, yeah.
No?
Yeah, this whole thing does. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so, when you're talking about Masonry, that's a really good book. And that's somebody that I specifically have spoken to that wrote that book. And he's also a great interview, by the way. So this also breaks off to the Egyptian rites of Freemasonry. And I just threw this in here because I have not studied this excessively yet. Like I have Martinism, but I can tell you this is Cagliostro was involved with these guys that started Martinism. And he kind of went off on his own and went into this high grade primitive Masonry. And the primitive Masonry supposedly goes back to like the Knights of the Orient, and that supposedly Bonaparte carried it to Egypt in 1798. Now, the 32nd degree Mason that I spoke to said, well, I mean, there's no proof. But yeah, if you'll give it to us, we'll take it for sure, So, I mean,
I wonder if
who knows?
let me ask you this: see if you know this. So, have you heard that the Masonry goes back to ancient Kemet? Back when they had mystic schools, they would.
This is what the mystery schools are.
This is okay.
Martinism is one of many mystery schools, and you guys can look up, if you look up Martinism or if you look up Pasquale or any of these people that I've given you, that's why I put those slides in there, not so much for me to read them, but for people to see them so they can go and like research this. You will go down a rabbit hole too, because I certainly have. I want my little sticker. I'm sure I've passed a couple levels by now. I don't know, but the Martinists let women. The Martinism let women in, which is another thing that I thought was very equal in line with Mormonism, because they let the women do it as well. We don't know what we're doing, but like we get to come to.
Yeah, interesting. And do they wear rings too and everything?
Nah, they. Oh, I could show you what they wear.
Yeah.
Let's see. I shouldn't have stopped sharing. I should have just minimized it. So since I didn't add as many pictures in there as I normally would have because I wasn't sure how much time we were going to spend on each thing.
Yeah, no.
And so we can still show the ones from Mormonism because they're actually really interesting. And when you look at these and you see, let's see here.
And I got to commend you, Heidi. When it comes to cataloging like all this stuff, man, do you have like tons of external hard drives where you're just
I do. Yep. No, I don't even trust it. Yeah, for sure not. No, I keep everything on an external. Can you see this picture okay?
I can see it, yeah.
Okay, so this is what we wear in the temple. So there are oaths, just like in Freemasonry. There are handshakes, just like in Freemasonry. Joseph Smith got his Freemason temple ordination 6 weeks before he made the temple ordination for his people. So I'm pretty sure that might have got him killed, except the fact he was boning everybody's wives. Hard to know.
That's why, I've always thought these cults, whatever you want to call them, I always thought that the guys just get into it just so they can bang women.
Seriously, Joseph was like crazy. And honestly, people will be like, well, it was because polygamy, because an angel came down and told Joseph he better do it or he was going to kill him with a sword. And I'm like, okay, but he was banging people's wives that were already married. That's not polygamy. That's polyandry. They're already married. And so it doesn't even make sense. Like even for like the Mormons, they'll say that. And I'm like, okay, bro, whatever. Like it is what it is.
Isn't there like a contradiction when it comes to like, is Mormonism, do they follow some sort of like, do they follow Jesus in some sense, right?
So they do believe in Jesus, but it goes back to who is your God, because they call God Elohim, and Elohim is a title. And that
Yeah.
title's a little bit sketchy because that could mean an angel. It can mean a demon. It means anything that doesn't live in the realm that we live in, the physical realm. It means like
I'm familiar
spirits,
with Elohims and I
Mhm.
from what I saw and everything, that's when it's translated, it's gods with the
Yes. I
plural.
well, and they freely admit there's a mother in heaven, and I just did an episode about Mother in Heaven. It will be out soon with Ed Mabry. And I'll tell you guys, like, and these aprons are fig leaves and they're green. It's just a bad picture because somebody took it with their Google glasses and snuck in the temple because you cannot have these photos. But they're there.
They love pictures, don't they? Like
They're not
all these secret
They're not
societies.
supposed to take these. No.
Yeah.
Somebody snuck in. Yeah. And his
Someone
name
got
is new name Noah, and they went after him like
they
crazy,
got him.
bro. I don't think they got him. I think he's smart. But that is what you wear in the temple. And very similar to that creation story that I was telling you, they also believe in the Adam and Eve fall and that Adam's crying out to God, but he cries out to the God of this world. He says, God of this world. And who shows up? Not God. Lucifer does. Well, you have to know about Mormons. They believe that the Holy Spirit and Jesus Christ and God are all different people, and they are not one. They are not one.
I see.
And they also believe that the Holy Spirit or God, I can't remember which one, banged Mary, like straight up banged Mary. And so,
wait,
just saying.
Mary, the like his mom Mary, right?
Yep. Yeah.
What do you speaking about, like just women and Mary and Jesus, like what about do you believe that he got married? Did you read anything about that?
I have heard about that.
Mary Evangeline or something like that.
It would make some sense, but I don't think there's enough actual proof. But I love that you brought it up because Joseph Smith once said, and they'll lie their ass off on this one. If you ask a Mormon, they're going to say, nah, bro. He once said he was actually the seed of Jesus Christ himself. So.
Yeah. I mean, they say that today, bloodline, Yeshua's or Jesus' bloodline is still, active. It's still out there. Somebody out there, still has it. So
funny you say that. Let me show you something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not true. I don't know. But I do know this. I do know that the Mormons are completely obsessed. And when I say obsessed, I mean obsessed with genealogy. This is the side of a mountain that the Mormons blew holes in and made a big bat cave. And I'm not kidding. This is called the Granite Genealogical Research. And all the genealogy, 3.1 billion pieces of genealogy are in here. And this place is like Fort Knox. Like you cannot get in here.
So
let me show you.
I'm seeing rock, and then I'm seeing
this is one hallway of DNA and genealogy samples for the Mormon Church.
Looks almost like the Matrix,
right?
When the rooms come in. So what in each one of those little boxes is someone's
genealogy. Tons. It's like a Dewey Decimal card thing, like pulls clear out.
Is
big.
Is this where they how they're able to, and I don't know if it's true or not, how they're able to trace all the presidents?
They trace them. Yeah,
no,
it's true. Look, the Granite Genealogical Vaults, they take these people and they baptize them after they're dead. Don't think we leave anyone out. Let me show you something funny. We try not to be picky. We baptize all the people. Look, we baptized Adolf Hitler. See?
Ain't that something?
Ain't that a bitch? And then after they did that, they did Anne Frank, and then they did a bunch of Jews, and those people died for what they believed in. So that is disgusting. And then the Mormon Church and the Jewish people got in a fight, and they were like, "Can you cut it out now?" And they were like, "Yeah, we will." And then they didn't.
Jeez. So why are they Mormons keeping all these?
You don't know.
No, I don't know.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you about necromancy. So the Mormons believe in a lot of weird things. And when you know about skull and bones and you know about these different things, it comes into a curious question. Why are Mormons baptizing dead people? This is the baptism for the dead font. This is inside the temple, not a church, the temple, only the temple. You can't do this anywhere else.
What am I looking at here, Heidi?
This is the baptismal font that you go to inside the temple to baptize dead people. I'm not kidding.
Okay, what's with all the gold bulls?
So what they say and what I think are two different things. What they say are these represent the lost 12 tribes of Israel, the oxen. What I feel, the people that do these baptisms are children. I did them at 12. You usually do them between 12 and 15, and you can do 8 of them at a time. And what you do is you actually take on this person's name. You're like, you're Mary Smith today, and I baptize you Mary Smith. It's not, I baptize you Heidi for Mary. No, none of that. I'm baptizing you Mary Smith. And so they do this, and they do this for all the dead people that I just showed you in those vaults. And then they also have a curious history of some really grody stuff. So this is a coffin cane made from the rotting flesh coffin that they dug up Joseph Smith and his brother because they said they had to make sure he was safe. They played this game before, and I'll show you in a minute. They dug him up and said they had to move him because people were going to desecrate his grave. Okay, whatever. So they dug him up, and all the rottingness wood, they made canes out of the rotten wood and made a new coffin and then put him in the new coffin. So they say, I don't think they put him in shit. They took him to Salt Lake City. But anyways, then
what's in Salt Lake City?
The temple with all the underground tunnels, and we can talk about that another day.
Okay.
But I'll tell you this, the knob of this coffin cane has a piece of the hair of each one of them inside of it. And these canes have been said, like, in the last days, these canes are going to fucking, I don't know, light up the sky and a dab of cadaver, whatever they say.
Jeez.
I don't know, but I'm telling you this, that is creepy.
That is creepy, but I wanted to ask you about when you mentioned that they would, like, they took you and then they gave you a name or something of a deceased person. So how long do you carry that name, and why are you carrying that name?
Exactly. Why is that? Isn't that a funny thing? So I also want to mention really quick that this wasn't their first rodeo with digging people up. So the angel told Joseph Smith one thing before he could get the plates. He said, you got to bring your brother because your brother's the guy. I want to talk to your brother. And he's like, okay, cool. I'll bring him next fall because he had to do this on the equinox and this whole magical summoning. And then his brother died before the fall. And so he's like, well, shit. And so they dug him up because they ran this article in the real newspaper. His dad was like, listen, we had to dig him up because you said we dug him up. So we're going to dig him up to show you we didn't dig him up. Okay. And everybody was like, what?
Gee.
Yeah. So everybody jokes that his brother Alvin, the firstborn son, by the way, firstborn son, had a hand in Mormonism. Ha ha ha. Because if you know anything about Skull and Bones, we're talking about some gross stuff here.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know much about Skull and Bones, but I can imagine.
And then Joseph's son was born shortly after that, his very firstborn son. And guess what? It lived for like 10 or 15 minutes.
The heck is that?
And then it died, and they named it Alvin, the dead brother's name. So was it a Faustian bargain?
What is that? What am I looking at? Some kind of reptile?
This is Joseph Smith's snake cane. You don't have a snake cane?
No.
A serpent staff. So you have to understand about magic. Some people think of magic like the swish, Leviosa, whatever, from Harry Potter. Once again, I did a whole episode on Harry Potter and Joseph Smith because it was too funny. But sometimes you have a Gandalf staff instead of a little flickety wand. And these are still magical things. Joseph had a limp, and he had typhoid fever when he was young. He had this cane and he carried it everywhere with him. Now, if you look at this Godhead, this is a crown, but there's 3 on the top. Like I told you, they're 3 different people. And then this is Joseph Smith's initials, same cane, the serpent cane. The one thing you might not catch straight out the gate is this upside down cross.
Dang, no, I didn't see that until you just did that.
I
So
didn't
the
see it
upside
either.
down cross. So let me see if I understood this like you did, because I heard a long time ago that the upside down cross, for whoever had it, was to
St.
be
Peter.
like Saint Peter. Okay, but the upside down cross, isn't it to like disconnect the person from the mind and the heart when they do this and they kind of do a line? Did you hear something like that?
Well, they can, or it can represent the death of St. Peter, who wanted to not die like his Lord, right? Like his God. And he begged to be crucified upside down. I've heard a lot of different things trying to kind of help with this situation. But the thing about this is if you know about Mormonism, you know one thing: crosses aren't allowed. We do not use the cross, nor do we represent the cross, nor are we allowed to. If you wore a cross and went to church at a Mormon church, they will give you the biggest crusty you've ever had. Really.
But that, see,
So
it doesn't make sense, because with the whole, like, if you said they're okay with Jesus, but the only
they're
certain
Jesus.
aspects,
They're
oh,
Jesus.
they're Jesus. Okay, I got you. Okay.
Yes. And you have to remember, they're Jesus. I mean, you also have to remember one thing. Their whole story starts with God the Father and the Son appearing together to Joseph Smith. So right there, we've got a problem, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
The
But
three individuals.
then they send another dude, and this guy's name is Moroni. And a lot of people think his name is Moroni, but it's not. He's on the top of all the temples. And he says, an angel, Moroni, came to me, and he used to be a fierce Lamanite warrior, or Nephite. I think it was a Nephite. Okay, there's a problem with that. Did angels ever have bodies?
I mean,
No.
it depends who you're talking to, but I guess in the general sense, I don't.
The only one I know of that has a body that's technically an angel is Jesus, because he's the only
Okay,
one
yeah,
that's
in
been
that sense.
resurrected, right? And so we're all waiting. I mean, those of us that have passed on, they're waiting, till the time of the Lord to come up out of the earth. Well, how come he's already chilling?
Yeah, he's already there. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
Who
then it
are
makes you
you?
go, who the frick were you talking to? I
Right.
think it was, people think he ate mushrooms. People think he lied. People think he's just this crazy charlatan. I'm sorry. I don't think any of that. I think he summoned a demon, and I think he accidentally summoned a fallen angel. And these things do not tell you the truth. If you want to learn anything about how deceptive angels are, and the reason why Saint Martin said, no more angels for me, get away from me, seraphim, is because they aren't always great, first of all. And second of all, it's probably because you're not really talking to who they say they are. Like, you're probably talking to a liar.
Let me ask this, Heidi. When it comes to the term angels, and I think you already answered it when you said that the only angel that you knew that had a body was Jesus, but I'm going to ask again. The angels are, to you, they're just energy beings, or they actually have corporeal form?
I mean, they say they're neither male nor female. They say they're, I think it's like Enoch, describes, or wasn't it Enoch? Yeah.
Yeah,
Enoch
described, yeah.
Yeah. And so he doesn't describe them as good. Like, they got lion faces and all this crazy stuff. And what does the Bible say every time somebody sees an angel? What's the first thing they say? He's be not afraid. Why do you have to say that every time you pop up into the bedroom? It's not because you look like normal,
There's because I mean, even like even reading the book of Enoch, and even parts of a lot of parts of the Bible, every time that they describe these beings, they seem to be not of this earth, but still be corporeal. Like they still, I mean, in some sense, I mean, they still put on their pants like any other person, one leg at a time. You never heard anything about, squid creatures or anything like that, So
yeah, I think that these things can be very, 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 very deceptive. And I think that the reason why there's so many warnings in the Bible about like, okay, be careful. You might be entertaining an angel. Oh, be careful. You might be entertaining bad spirit, whatever. I think they're trying to warn you of something, because there are things out there. I mean, if you go with Jewish Kabbalah, which I mean is talk about a gnome hole. Holy shit. So if you want to go get yourself confused, try and learn about the Kabbalah. And they talk about, the demons, and that there are so many of them that Jewish people, I just put it on this because the screens were all crazy.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you, what is
but
that?
We can
But yeah,
talk about this too. But they say that they don't go into dirty places for very long, like the bathroom, because there's so many demons in there. And that if we could literally see them, they would be everywhere, like so many all around us at all times. And so that's
you're saying that,
terrifying.
so that just says that, obviously they exist on different frequency.
Yeah.
And that means that there is a lot of humans that can perceive that frequency. And this is why, and they tell you, hey, there's things in here right now. And then those that believe them say, okay. And those that don't be like, you're cuckoo. You're crazy.
Well, and here's the thing. If it is so cuckoo, here's a fun fact that I always like to tell people about Martinism, about Mormonism, about any of these things. Okay. If it were a lie, and if it were not true at all, then how did it last for so long? Because if these people are still summoning spirits every fall and spring equinox, and they're doing, magic, I'll tell you one thing that you'll see. If you look up Solomonic magic right now in Google, and you look up like on Reddit, practicing Solomonic magic, that people will be like, don't do it, bro. Super friggin' scary. Like, don't do it. Why would people be so flipped out about this, right? Like, they don't do that for very much magic. A lot of magic is practiced every day, but Solomonic magic and Enochian magic are the two magical practices where I've seen people be like, bro, you probably better not, unless you freaking know what you're doing. Just don't do it. And even if you do know, don't do it. Like, people
just
are
don't do it at
out.
all. Yeah.
Yes. And even this guy, Saint Martin, he did it all, and he's probably like a master of the universe at it, right? Like, I mean, he helped invent all this to include into Masonry, not invent it in general, but like he's incorporating that and then gets freaked out for whatever reason and says, don't ever do it again. What?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, something happened. There's a story
something
there.
lasts for such a long time, and they're doing rituals and they know when to do it. It means they're getting results every time.
Yep. That's right.
But
or maybe most of the time, right? Like at least most of the time. And so, fun fact, this is one of his many scrying rocks, but this one he found on his neighbor's property. So he never gave it back. So Mormonism is literally built upon a stolen rock, just so you guys know. It's pretty fun.
That is just...
He had multiple seer stones. This one is the one I think is the most important, and I'll tell you why. There's no real pictures of it, even though they have it. And the church says they have it. And the church is like, yeah, we have it.
So what's this? Is this not a real picture?
That's a artist rendition. So it's a painting.
Wow. Okay.
So,
dang, that looks pretty good.
I think they want to say the brown one was super important. And I'm like, my ass. Like, whatever.
So what's where the white seer one, that's the most powerful stone.
Well, they say it wasn't, but this one did have, sorry, I just mic bumped you. This one did have aspects of quartz in it. And there is certain alchemical things. When you look at some of these books, and especially one called the Refiner, like something Refiner's Stone or something about Joseph Smith, these books will tell you that he was no dumb farm boy, and he knew a lot about Hermetic magic. He was not supposed to know. The church sells this as he couldn't even read and write, and so the Lord must have came because, he's an idiot. And I'm like, he was not an idiot.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Best way to hide is to act like a fool and say, I don't know nothing.
I don't know anything. Yeah. Does this car run good? I don't know. I don't know anything about cars. And this is kind of a rendition of how he would do it, but he would block out all the light. And if you guys look up the story about Edward Kelly and John Dee, it's almost identical. It's really similar. And so when you guys learn about this stuff, I mean, like I said, this took me on a little off to the right because I had to learn about these Egyptian rites and different things. But like, even as you're learning them, like I know a little bit and I can say, oh yeah, that's a thing and this and blah, blah, blah. There's still thousands of things I'm sure that I don't know,
Yeah. And then
These are secret.
You got some Masonry folks that may catch this or your podcast and they're like,
For sure.
she's almost there, but she still doesn't know nothing.
And they're probably like, ha ha, she missed a spot. But I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I know enough. I know enough not to do it. How about that?
What? And that's a key thing, to know enough to either do or don't do something, period.
Yep.
And
I found God, I found the real God. And God isn't, listen, people, God is not about all of this. God is not about symbols. And
that's why
this is,
yeah.
This is on the temple. This is on an LDS temple.
Yeah.
And, I already told you, well, I didn't tell you one thing, and I'll tell you really quickly. This piece right here, I've kind of showed you a lot of my Mormonism one out of order, but I mean, like,
it's all right.
You still get the gist of it.
Yeah.
But this is something called mirror magic. And this is also something that you do when you go to the temple. You also get a new name, you get magical underpants. Like there's a whole nother story there. But I'll show you the magical underpants because everybody wants to know. I wore those for years. They're just so uncomfortable.
They're not magical.
And they're not. There's no magic happening. Yeah. When you wear those, the magic ends. That's what happens. Because you can never take them off. So,
my gosh.
You can take them off to go swimming, to launder them. I mean, you have lots of pairs for a laundry day. You can take them off for the gym. And you can take them off to make more Mormons. And then you have to put them right back on.
And what's the purpose? Why do you wear these magical underpants?
I'll show you about that. They believe they're protection. Okay.
Mirror magic.
This is mirror magic. And when you get married in the temple, you kneel over an altar and you look into these mirrors. And for time and all eternity, see this portal that this is making?
Yeah. It's just
highway to hell.
It's
literal.
2 mirrors, right? Okay, yeah, it's 2. Okay, it's 2 mirrors. All right.
And this is dangerous. If you ever interview Zachary King, the ex-satanic high wizard, he specifically says how he became his start of occultism was playing Bloody Mary. So mirrors are no joke, people.
Heidi, is he still alive?
He is. Yeah,
What's his name?
He's running the gamut. You can get an interview tomorrow. He's all over. I interviewed him. He's great.
What's his name?
Zachary King. And so that is one of my episodes. I need to re-release that in its fullness. I was really new podcaster then, and he said some things, and I was like, I clutched my little pearls, and I was like, I don't know if I could put this on the thing, but like, maybe I would now. I'm pretty brazen now. So
nice.
But yeah, so he told me that his very beginning start of magic was the Bloody Mary game. So people, do not let your kids play that. It's not a joke.
So it is real.
Yeah. He said that you can channel things. Well, this mirror magic that I showed you with this tunneling creates a portal. And you're leaning over this altar. What's in that altar? I do not know. But it makes you wonder. Makes one wonder, doesn't it?
So you're leaning. So from this view that I'm looking at, you're leaning just over it. Like if you're
and
kneeling
holding
over,
hands.
And holding hands with
You're
who?
kneeling. Mm-hmm. You're kneeling.
You're holding hands with who?
Your husband.
Okay, so
You're
it's
getting
you
married.
And your husband
in the green weird outfit that I showed you. The ugly green apron.
And then you have these mirrors creating portal, and then all these chairs are what? Just witnesses
for your family.
For your family. So this is supposed to be this is a wedding ceremony. So these portals that are being open, what's the purpose of that?
They will not say they're portals being open, but this is my conjecture. Because again, just like the baptisms, right? You're doing them for dead people. You're going to come back to this room. I did it probably 200 times. And you're going to seal dead people to each other. And he's going to be James today, and you're going to be Mary today, and you're going to seal James and Mary for time and all eternity. First of all, as much as that sounds wonderful, people, it's not biblical. What is said of marriage when you die? what do they say? Jesus answers this directly, Jesus himself. He is talking when the woman is being stoned, and also about the woman at the well who had all the husbands. And they said, well, who's her husband? All these guys have been married to her in death. Who's going to be her husband? And what does he say? He says, there is no marriage in heaven, for you will be like the angels, and you'll be neither male nor female. So it's not biblical, and it isn't just in like the other words. These are Jesus's words. Okay. So he's telling everybody this isn't how it works, but yet the Mormons continue to do their little games.
Wait, is that for all religion, Heidi? Is that for
yes, that's the real Bible.
Marriage isn't really a thing then. Is that what?
Till death do you part. Yeah.
And then, okay.
I do think we will know each other in heaven, but I don't think we'll be married in heaven because, like I said, we won't need to be because we'll be different. Yeah, we'll be different. And so we won't need it anymore, right? Like we might love that person still, but we're not going to need sex or like
what do you
think
need?
of what happened with the angels when they had sex. They got into shit. So we don't want to be doing that. So I don't know, but he does say it doesn't continue for that long. As they're looking in these mirrors and making these portals, and you've got this weird altar, and I always wonder, like, what's in there now that I'm out, you know?
Yeah.
Are you channeling entities, these names? Some of them maybe might be harmless, like your own family or something, but are you channeling certain things into yourself? Like every time you're doing this, and what magic is it? Because they wouldn't do it for nothing.
Yeah.
They would not do this if it meant nothing. There's no way that they would. And
I mean, it's conscious thought, you know, like when people pass away, their energy or their consciousness, you know, leaves.
Yes.
So through these portals, if they're bringing them back, that consciousness is coming back into you, you know?
Well, and here's the thing that I conjecture on this star right here. Remember, we talked about Solomonic magic. These are a pentacle and a pentagram. They're different things, but this window is very curious because what does this look like that I've already showed you today? This looks like one of those seals.
The seals and the thing that was on the altar, and
I'm gonna figure this out more because I'm on a mission. So this is my conjecture: is if the seal is, if this is to bring them in and invite them here, it doesn't have the seal. And this is to lock them in and keep them there.
Yeah.
What if all the names everyone is providing, this is just conjecture on my part.
Yeah, right.
What if all of those people are stuck in there? What
inside that little thing? And why would these people bring these deceased energies back?
What does necromancy give you? Why do people do necromancy in general?
To bring people back from the dead?
Power. Gives you power. The person, not the dead guy. It gives the person doing the magic the gift of revelation, power, and knowledge. Now, let me tell you what the prophet's name is of the LDS Church. The prophet, seer, and revelator. These things are much more intricate than one might believe. Like, when we start talking about other forces and control of those forces, first of all, you're going to piss some things off. Second of all, you're going to have a lot of power. The third thing I can tell you for sure about the Mormon Church is they are the most underestimated people right now that I can think of that are highly involved in a one world order. Now, what I'm showing you here is a dead president of the church. And I'm also showing you Baby Bush, the president.
Why has he got his finger in his sleeve?
Why does he? Because they're doing a Masonic grip. And I know that grip because I did it many times. But this is not supposed to be performed outside of the temple for Mormons. Baby Bush can do whatever he wants. But this guy, he's supposed to be the prophet. He's supposed to be the example. Why is he doing this out in public? I do not know. But I know this. I know this church has been wildly underestimated. I know this church, for the first time ever in decades and decades and decades, was allowed to build a temple right in Rome, right next door to the Vatican.
That's
I know
crazy.
I know that this key is the keys. And what does the Mormon church call the priesthood? They call it the keys to the priesthood. The priesthood keys. We have the keys. They also say little shitty things like they might have masonry, but we have the true masonry. They've got some stuff up their sleeve that people don't understand. And I don't
Heidi,
think anybody knows except the top 1% of Mormonism.
yeah, you mentioned the Vatican. So we know who the Pope, right? We know who the Pope is, the white Pope and
For
everything.
good.
Yeah. Have you heard of the Black Pope?
Yes. Yes.
Me too. Have you done any research on him?
Not enough, but I will tell you guys this. These things that are happening right now in the world, when I look at this, I'll play a game with you. We'll play a game. I already showed you the genealogy vaults, and I didn't show you this. Okay. So I want to tell you something. These genealogy vaults are really important. And the very day that P. Diddy got arrested, okay, this whole press release comes out for 23andMe. And it flashes across my phone, and it says every single person on the board of directory for 23andMe on the day Diddy was arrested quit.
Gone.
Except one. Except Ann Warchicki. Well, who is Ann Warchicki? So I'm like, I wonder who this girl is. Like, I'm just bored, like sitting home, like whatever. So I'm checking out on my phone. This came up on its own naturally because of the stuff you Google. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it comes up, and Ann Warchicki's sister ran YouTube and suddenly died of a cancer in August, and she was only like 50 something. So I was like, that's weird. And then I look again, and that lady's son died 3 months before that. Now that's a lot of death and a lot of going on. So I'm like, that's weird. And what I know that most people don't know about 23andMe and Ancestry.com is I showed you the Batman Cave. Well, the Batman Cave, we in the LDS Church believe in genealogy so greatly because of all this dead people work that I'm telling you about. Every Mormon has to do their genealogy as far back as they can do it, even before computers. Like my grandma was doing this stuff by hand. And she also was a missionary for free for the church, just entering in names into the genealogy system because she loved genealogy so much. And she did this for free for 2 years. So I do want to tell people this is they've got all these records, and they had a program called FamilySearch.org. Well, they don't own Ancestry.com and they don't own 23andMe, but they do own every single thing that pours into it. When you put that together with all of the stuff with Rome that I'm telling you, and then one more thing is this. The Mormon Church's portfolio is very interesting, and I do a whole thing on the Mormon Mafia, and they helped build Las Vegas. And when I say they helped build it, I mean there would be no Las Vegas without Mormons.
Yeah, wow,
and I
never
don't
knew
know,
that.
Yeah, and I don't know that without Mormons, we would even be as advanced today as we are. And it's all in that whole thing. And I'll be happy to present it sometime.
Jeez.
But what it is it shows you kind of their portfolio. So I would like to ask you, who is the number one landowner for farming in America right now?
For farming? I don't think I know the answer to that.
Bill Gates. Who's the second?
Yeah, I've been seeing these stickers
and it's real. I have researched that.
So it is real. And the little stickers, what are they called? The appeal stickers or something like that?
Yeah. Yep. And minus the appeal, it's just the fact he owns the most farming land. Guess who's second? Mormons.
Mormons. Okay, so Bill Gates
and guess what?
Mormons. Huh.
Guess who the number one holding is for stock holding for the Mormons?
I don't know.
Microsoft. You tell me they're not working together.
Yeah, absolutely.
They had a portfolio worth over $3 billion that they said they're just holding for the end of the world. And that's just what's on paper.
Yeah. Jeez.
These people aren't playing.
Yeah, they have a plan. They know they know something's
They know something we don't know.
something's coming. Yeah. So wow,
Yep.
the Mormons, huh? They I didn't think too much of Mormons. I mean, now
And isn't that the best game? Isn't that the best game to be played?
yeah. Now the Mormons and the Amish are different, right? They're two different.
Yeah, they're totally different. But
Okay.
because Mormons are, I mean, the FLDS, you'll hear it called the FLDS, and the FLDS are a branch of the Mormons that still practice polygamy, and they're called the fundamentalists. And
Are these
so
the magic
these are the
pajamas?
magical undies. You got a square and compass on your nipples. You got a sideways ruler on your belly button, and you got a little line on the right knee. And they say it's so every knee shall bow for Jesus. But what if it's every knee shall serve? You ever
Oh,
heard that before?
yeah. Whenever you go to church, right?
Yep. And what does that mean? Like, what does that really mean? You know?
Wait a minute. Wait, let me process that. So so like even just in regular Catholic,
Any
Christianity,
religion.
church, any religions.
Yeah.
So when people go down the aisle and they go up to, they see the Jesus on the cross and everything, and they do a little kneel and do a little Father Son. I was wondering why people kneel. I'm like, why are we kneeling? Like, that's what you do for like, dictators and kings. And, if he's supposed to be like, this loving, passionate God, he shouldn't have to kneel.
Even if you choose to kneel, I don't
Mm.
think he would want us to kneel in front of what? An idol. We
An
don't know what
idol.
Jesus looked like. And the
Right.
Jesus that is in the Catholic Church is based off of Borgia. And he was like a rapist.
Cesar Borgia. Yeah.
Yeah, it's his nephew. He was like this horrible person.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
And so I'm just saying, like, I don't think that God would want us to do that. He was real pissed about idolatry before,
No, no, just in general, like, I mean, we get told that Jesus or God, whoever is, this like compassionate love, you're in my image, like all these good things. But then when you read the Bible on a lot of these stories, there is so much like killing and raping and murdering and, and you're like, where?
You know why?
Well,
Do you know why?
I think I know why. Will you tell me?
Because it's the fallen angels.
Mm.
He was trying to wipe out before the flood. I truly believe, because God was like running around telling him, kill everything, kill all the animals, kill everything, kill the women, kill the babies, kill the livestock, kill everything. I mean, because what happens with the man when Jesus comes to the Nazarene? No. The guy that's in the pigs, right? The pig thing.
Yeah.
So he says, why are you here? Why are you going to cast us out? It's not time yet. And he's like, no, it isn't time yet. So, I mean, sorry about it. And he's like, well, at least put us in the swine. Right. And so they go into the swine. So that shows you right there that these spirits can go to and from. Right.
Yeah.
And so if they were powerful enough to transfer into an animal or a baby or whatever, and plus the DNA is corrupt. If you've ever read anything from Gary Wayne or talked to Gary Wayne, he's great. You know that the God of the Old Testament is trying rapidly to save the regular human people, because the Nephilim are like killing everyone. They're eating people. They're like killing people. They're wiping things out. And I think it was a panicked God. How would you act as a parent if mob was trying to kill your kid?
Right.
Well,
And I definitely, and in my studies, I like to learn and read about, ancient texts and stuff. And, two of my favorite ones outside of the Epic of Gilgamesh, there's, the Atrahasis and the Enuma Elish. And they talk about, all of these, deified entities, aliens, let's just call them aliens and everything. But I I believe today, and I stick with it, that the Bible, it starting off with the Old Testament, is a remix of a bunch of stories, from a lot of different stories from a lot of different gods, plural.
Yes.
And then obviously when monotheism, came into play, they just say, oh yeah, this one guy did all of this stuff, and this is why there's so many different stories that just don't make sense.
There is one God. There is one
Yeah.
God, but that God is over other gods. There's a council.
Right.
I'm going to stop sharing. And I
Right.
truly
Right.
believe that. And I just think that, that's hard for people to understand. But you have to think of also the thoughts from, heaven and whatever. They say it was like a court. They say, they could, everything was just, everything was like a court, blah, blah, blah. Like it's all very set up. So it would make sense to have like a boardroom and then he's the boss, right? Like instead of just like, I'm just the guy. Nobody else gets to say anything. Like that's it, And if
Yeah.
you look at Gary Wayne's work, I would really get his book because he talks about the Genesis 6 conspiracy. And he talks about the day 6 people. And I really believe, and also in Martinism, they talk about these angels and how Adam was supposed to rule over the angels and bring them back into the fold and help them. Again, we get into why is there a flood story in every single account of every single thing you ever read? And
Yeah.
it says that everything was corrupt at that time except for Noah, but they didn't mean that he was a perfect man. They meant that his DNA was good, that he hadn't been manipulated in his seed yet. But I do believe in a seed war, and I really do believe that because when you start listening to these later stories like of Jacob and Esau, and what's his name? I forget right now. Prometheus Lens. Shout out Prometheus Lens. She has a great thing on this about Esau being hairy and coarsely hairy and smelled like the field, and does this whole breakdown of how he literally was kind of like a beast. Like he kind of thinks it's a Bigfoot,
Yeah.
And I'm like, that makes so much sense. If the serpent, the shining one, the Nakash, is actually not a snake, right? What if he's just a shining one and he's
Right.
actually an angel? And what if he corrupted the seed? Because I'll tell you, there's a part in the Mormon 2-hour long horrible temple ceremony you got to go through. And they're talking about the Genesis story. And God comes down and says, yo, Lucifer, what the hell are you doing? And he says, I'm just doing what we've done in other worlds. But I do believe fallen angels are here. And I do believe almost the same story, but with the fallen angels instead.
Yep.
So my thing is that why would you make humans? We suck. We're not that strong. Our backs are breaking. We got to take breaks. We got to eat. We want to have sex. We got to, we're just flaky little shits. Why would they make us and we're emotional. And then 9 months out of the year, the girl can't work because she's pregnant again. And it just seems like a bad idea. And so I fall more into the biblical fallen angel, but it is almost the same story. Honestly,
almost
when
the
you
same
read
stories, like what
Gary Wayne's book, you're going to be like, there
Gary
it is.
Wayne.
You're good. Yep. And he'll come on. He's wonderful. He's really good to come on and talk. And he's if you watch his podcast, you'll just be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll
he's
check it out.
So smart. I mean,
I love hearing all the different perspectives of everybody, because eventually you start seeing the similarities.
Yes.
And then you can connect the dots and then discern and make your own decision on what you decide to believe.
Well, and don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Look at the story and put your narrative in there, because maybe we're all right. Maybe, you know what I mean?
And that's the first time I've heard that, and I actually like that. Maybe we're all right. I mean, I don't know how to actually elaborate on that, but that resonates with me. Maybe we are all right. Period.
In our own way. Yep. In our own ways. Maybe there's a piece of truth in everything. Because I know one thing: when they want to mess up people's minds and really get them to believe a conspiracy, they have to put a lot of truth in it, or nobody buys it.
Yeah.
And people will say that, oh, but look, this and this and this, and this is good, and this is this, and da da da. And if 2020 taught you anything, guys, like, don't fall for it. Yeah.
Heidi, I tell you what, as we're getting close to this, I am going to ask you 3 questions to ask all my guests and everything, because everyone has a very interesting answer to these questions. But I do want to say again, I commend you for the work that you're putting in. Again, you're a mom, you have your own job, you have your own things and everything. But having these conversations, this is the goal. This is needed, and if more people are doing their own research and coming up with their own understanding of this third density that we live in, then we can go ahead and stop listening to other people telling us this is how it is. So when you ask that one question, you don't get the answer like, well, it's because God said, and that's it, period. Right. Shut up. Here's a coloring book, here's some crayons, shut up and color.
How judgmental is that to say to someone, well, your Jesus isn't my Jesus? That's why I say about the Mormons, like, whatever Jesus they want to do, that's fine. Stop lying to people, though. Just stop that. We'll be fine. But I do think there's a fine line between light and darkness, because there you go with Joseph Smith. He's leading people kind of one way, and it looks really good. It looks like, just like John Dee's angels, they looked super good until they were like, bang this dude, his wife, and then the baby. Yeah. We have to use our discernment. We really have to pray. But at the end of the day, I think that as long as you're not hurting anyone else and not hurting dogs and kids and animals and stuff, back up off of people, because you're not going to change anybody that way. You're not.
The aggressive concept of you're going to believe what I believe. Why? Just why? And plus, we're already past that, right? The whole crusades and stuff. Come on, guys. Everybody knows how that turned out, right? So stop doing that individually, right? Stop doing your own crusade.
And maybe their Jesus isn't even Jesus. Have you seen him? He's not blonde. I promise.
Yeah. I think the earliest one is in the is it the Sinai Bible, something like that. So I don't know.
Just read his words. Try and live by that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. Read his words and try to live by it. And it's the concept. It's the mindset. It's not who cares what he looked like, or where he went. Just if you resonate with what he wanted, live your life good and things like that, then just do that.
You can share your knowledge, and I can say to you, okay, what you think of the Anunnaki is exactly how I think of fallen angels, and this is why. You're going to go look at that on your own, because I didn't come at you like, you're going to go to hell because you didn't do this, that's not helping anyone.
It doesn't, it just doesn't work that way. And did Jesus in his time, when he was walking on earth and he was talking to the masses, if there's one person that said, hey, Jesus, you suck, what did he what did he do? He kept it cool, cheek. Right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here's my questions to you, Heidi, and I'm definitely interested in hearing your answers on this one. So here's the first one. If you could send a message to humanity that everyone would hear, what would it be?
Love one another.
I like it.
Actually.
Yeah. I love it. Second one. What is one mystery of the universe that you wish that you could solve?
Goodness. Who's the Mormon Jesus?
You got to know. You need a full circle.
I need to know. Yeah, I need to know.
If anybody is going to find out, it's going to be you. And when you find out, let me know. All right? Let me know.
Yeah. Try.
I love that. And then the last question is, beyond all the knowledge and experiences that you've gained, what still leaves you in awe or makes you question everything?
That's 2 different questions. What leaves me in awe? Kids. Kids leave me in awe every day. If you ever want to know something, talk to a kid, especially 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
and you'll be like, damn, they got it figured out. But like,
Yeah.
you know, it makes me laugh. And sometimes my daughter will even say like, I watched like 5 minutes of your show, but then I had to turn it off because it's boring. I try to give you a like,
that.
Mom. Yeah. And she's like, but I gave you a like. And I'm like, you're good to me. But we should all be a lot more like kids. I feel like the reason why I said, you know, love one another and be more like children is because I lost my brother to an overdose, and he was a veteran, and he was in the burn pits and in the Gulf War, and he never got over it. He never got over it. But even worse than that, and for every veteran I take care of at the mental health facility where I'm at, they never come and say, my car was blown up and I lost all these people. They do, but that isn't really what's the matter. What's the matter is their childhood, usually every single time. It isn't because this horrible thing happened this one day. It's because this horrible thing happened and they never dealt with it. And then this horrible thing happened this one day. And, you know, my uncle's a retired Green Beret. He was airborne. He was presidential duty. He was a pretty big badass. And I'll tell you, watching him go through some of the stuff that he's gone through, you guys just can't even know, you know, but it starts at home. So if we don't start getting these kids when they're young and letting them know that they're loved, we will never end accidental overdoses. We will never end alcoholism. We will never end abuse. We will never end any of that stuff. And now we're all afraid to talk to our neighbors because of 2020.
Yeah. I love that answer. And yeah, hug your kids, people. Hug your kids. I have a 16 and 13-year-old sons, and I have no shame in hugging.
That's hard. Yep. You know, these blessings that we receive, sometimes we need more than we understand. And so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that, Heidi. And again, thank you for your time. I do appreciate, you know, the gift that you've given me to come on to my podcast and spread your knowledge, you know. And I believe that you are putting in the work, and you're doing the work for those that don't want to do the work, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of books upstairs and down here. My husband's like, you're going to have your own library soon. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And then you could change the background to like a library, the whole book thing.
Books everywhere. Yeah.
Just books everywhere. Be like,
I got to have them up by my bed. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was reading this the other day, and this is on topic and whatnot. I can't wait. I can't wait to see that.
Like, yeah. My husband's like, oh, no, not again.
I love it. Heidi, we definitely got to do this again.
Yeah, for sure.
Again, keep doing what you're doing, keep putting in the work. I mean, there's a lot of people that are getting to know you. And again, for those on my podcast that didn't know Heidi Luv, you know Heidi Luv now and everything. So definitely check her out. And folks, if you like this episode, you know, give me a like, subscribe, send it to one person. There's one person that you know, family, friends, cousin, whoever that likes this stuff. Just forward it, send it, call it a day, you know? Yeah. I would definitely appreciate that. If you catch me on Spotify, hit me up with those 5 stars, because those help out the algorithm. They go a long way. And if you catch me on Rumble, do the same thing, subscribe, like, and share as well. And Heidi, we just want to give you one last word. If there's anything you want to say to my audience, please go for it.
Leave a 5-star Apple review for him, because they count a lot. So try and do that as well. And for me too, if you can.
Go on both and everything. So again, guys, I always encourage you guys to keep asking questions and push the envelope for what's currently known, and continue to keep going forward and to beyond the frequency.